Hey everybody, it's Joe with Trekkie Bricks here, and I am joined by Zach and his awesome Ball-Dozer here, and it's one of the more unique ones that I've seen because it takes care of itself along this track, and with that, because he's got an awesome amount of knowledge about this, I'm going to let him take over for a little bit of information for this.
So this is my Ball-Dozer that uses the LEGO Mindstorms NXT, and it follows just this white line that I laid down on these tile plates here that allow it to just drive around, but it's really a very expensive agitator. And I have a program here that lets it just run with the two light sensors right here to follow any colored line on any colored surface so long as the contrast is high enough. And so when I hit the run button here, it's going to ask me a few questions that I can then set it up each time. And these are just changing some of the variables inside, so that way when I set it down, it'll drive the way I want it to. And as you can see, it just follows along that line independently of any input from then on. So it can now just sit and do its job. Don't need to be passing around a controller like Ball-Dozers you might have seen before. And it works pretty well. It's got a little adjustability here to kind of make sure that it doesn't have too many dead spots. I do eventually need to put some walls on the side so it doesn't keep letting balls get inside the tracks, but otherwise it works pretty darn well. You know, the only thing you ever have to do is change the batteries.
What happens if when it hits that white line, that sensor's doing what when it hits it?
So what it's doing is it's taking the sensor data, and why it's able to follow any color line is because it's using the difference between the two sensors. So as long as the surface is relatively the same color, in this case green, it's just looking at the reflected light value, and when it sees something different, it turns away from it in either direction to try and keep that difference in the middle. So as long as you set it mostly on top, you know, splitting the line, it'll then center itself up.
Was there anything special with the coding that makes it particularly difficult to set up?
So essentially how it works is it's got a branch set up at the beginning, like I was showing with the buttons, where it's essentially just asking me to input a couple things to change some of the variables that are used for the math equation. But at the core of it, it's just taking 1 minus 2 and then adjusting the steering. So it's taking sensor 1 minus sensor 2, and if it's a positive number, it turns one way. If it's a negative number, it turns the other way. And if it's just 0, it just drives straight.
Okay, and what happens now if you were to pick it up? Does the code fail on it and has to get reset, or what happens there?
No, I can pick it up as many times as I want, because now, again, as you can see, it currently now just sees the same color because it's just up in the air. But if I were to put my hand over it, you can now see that it's adjusting the steering accordingly, because now it's like, oh, I see something a little bit different, so now I'm going to turn, and it'll do, and I can make it really extreme by essentially just completely covering that sensor.
Okay, and that's all part of that coding to make it very versatile, so it doesn't have to be.
Nope, this can follow any color surface with any color line, so long as you set it to either positive or negative turn, which was that direction step when I went through at the beginning and was clicking all those buttons. When it asks for direction, white line on dark surface or light on dark is 1, dark on light would be -1. And then I can just set it down and it'll get back to work.
Perfect, it automatically found the line and everything.
Yeah, so long as you put it mostly along the line. So like if I were to just put it like this, with it not looking, with it just seeing light, and actually it worked pretty well that time. Usually it doesn't just grab it immediately. But like, because I've got it so tight here, it's got a corner, but like you can get it into a position where it'll sometimes miss. And occasionally, if it misses a turn or like a track gets stuck, you have to reset it. But that doesn't happen often. It's actually working a lot better than usually when I stick it in a corner to show it drive off. It actually has set itself, and it can also run the other direction if I wanted. You know, I could set it this way. It doesn't have to go that way around the track. It's just that's the way the scoop is currently designed.
You can just reverse that because it's
Yep.
just a little bit of technique and whatnot.
Exactly.
Now, one thing I also noticed about this particular one is
And see there, so that one,
yeah.
I didn't set it very good on the line, so it missed it.
Okay.
So you do have to do somewhat of a job there to start it somewhat balanced on the line.
Yeah.
But
One thing that I did notice on this one is none of the balls really getting stuck in corners, which is a surprise to me. So how
Yeah.
did we accomplish that?
because this platform is not flat. If you look here, there's actually just a few, there's like a little bit of a difference between each of these towers. So like this one is, you know, one plate higher than this one. And so it makes it slightly bowl shaped. And as long as there's enough movement of balls coming in from its feeder and the robot moving around, you don't usually get anything caught in the corners. Because there's enough variability. With just it running, it'll get caught a little bit more. Like up in here, you see it. But then another ball comes in, bumps it, and then it's good to go again.
Okay.
And so it really just is, once you get the feeder going and a little bit more of the chaos of GBC, it helps work itself out to where there's really not any big dead spots.
Is there any future plans for this, or is it pretty set?
Just some improvements to the robot, just again to make sure that it doesn't get as many balls caught, because throughout a show, especially as it drives past the feeder, if the feeder times it when it's like right here, it'll end up shooting them inside the gap of the tracks. So I need to essentially give it some side skirting. And I also want to replace this dozer bar with like a street sweeper with some motors, so it'll be even more chaotic. Just bounce
that
them around
sounds
all over the place.
Throw them out to the public.
Yeah, possibly.
All right, and we've also got here your QR code. I'm going to do a little plug for you.
No, that's not.
Not that one?
No.
Okay. So,
This is for our, that one would just send an email directly to the camp supervisor.
all right, so you guys put on a camp, right?
Yeah, so I mentor a robotics team here for first robotics competition, and their fundraiser, or one of their fundraisers, is running a LEGO Robotics summer camp where they teach kids how to use the LEGO robots, and it also helps support their robotics team as well.
All right, so if you're in the Boise, Idaho area, or is it surrounding a little bit further?
Honestly, if you can come to the Boise area, you know, well, you could sign up, you know.
All right, great. Thank you so much for showing it to everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome.